Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, June 3rd, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, today we'll start off in Italy, and then we will go to, even off to Russia, and then back to Italy, and then to California. So we have a busy day ahead of us. So first, we start off with Our Lady of Sassapoli in Italy. So the sanctuary of Our Lady of Sassapoli is found some 1,700 feet above sea level in one of the mountains in the range of Mount Giovi. It's about 12 miles from Florence, Italy. We're told that in ancient times there was a little shrine on the hill, and it contained a tablet depicting the Blessed Virgin and Child, right? Since the plaque is, according to some experts, a work of the Giotto school, it was probably made sometime between 1300 and 1490, right? So many people would go to the shrine and pray in front of that little image. It was July 2nd, 1490, when two girls were praying at the shrine to ask for health for their father, who was very sick. Anyways, as they were praying to her, they heard a sound and looked around and found a lovely lady sitting on a stone nearby with the child in her arms. Before they recovered from the shock, the lady spoke to them. She told them not to be afraid and not to worry, that she was the one to whom they had been praying so fervently, and that she wanted a church to be built on that spot in her honor. She told them to go and bring their father, because she wanted to speak to him. So the girls at this point replied, well, our father can't come. He's too sick. He can't even get out of bed. But Our Lady assured them that he was now well, and they should go and get him. So they hurried home and found their father completely recovered. They returned with him to the shrine, and the lady was still sitting on the stone. She told the father of her wish that a church be built on that spot. Now, the man and his daughter spread the story of his recovery and how the Virgin appeared, but very few believed, and nothing at all was done for the church. So then, on August 15th, the Feast of the Assumption, when there was a good number of people gathered, the Virgin appeared for the third time. She said she was displeased at the delay and demanded that they get busy and build her a church. So this time they believed and they started to work. But that's not the end of the story. Since the ground around the stone where she had appeared seemed too steep to build the building, they decided to lay the foundation a few hundred feet away, not very far, right? But when the stonemasons arrived for work the following morning, they found that the walls they had laid the day before were demolished and the stones were all thrown around. After this happened several times, they decided, they took the hint, that Our Lady didn't want the church there, but on the spot where the stone was. So they bowed to the inevitable and with great labor leveled off the ground around the stone, and there they erected the church in honor of Our Lady of Sassapoli, right? So, and again, this is why it's called Madonna del Sasso, which is the Lady of the Stone, right? We're also told, I think, though for some reason we've already celebrated Our Lady of Vladimir in Moscow, Russia. And I'm trying to look here and see why anything has to do with anything. Okay, this is why. Very nice. I think, we did celebrate it on May 21st. That's right. But, because they use a different calendar, right? So, this is a very beautiful image, the Virgin of Tenderness, or a merciful one. It shows mother and child cheek to cheek in embrace. It's an icon, right? So, it was carried to Moscow in 1395, and it was credited with lifting Tamerlane's siege, right? In 1480, there was another victory over the invading Tartars, and the image was permanently removed to Moscow, right? People had said that it was the work of St. Luke the Evangelist. Okay, that's possible. And today's celebration, which is, like we said, June 3rd, but May 21st in the Julian calendar, celebrates Moscow's deliverance from Khan Mahmet Girey in 1521. Right? Then we're going to jump back to Italy, to Madonna della Lettera in Messina, Sicily, Italy. Right? So the people of Messina credited Our Lady's intervention with saving the city during the earthquakes, which struck most of Sicily in 1693, right? On January 19th of that year, when the first tremors began, Our Lady appeared to a sick girl named Paola Alfonsina, the daughter of the lawyer Antonio Pesce. As a Jesuit later recounts, this is an account from 1705, so just a few years after, she said suddenly she saw the window of her little room open unexpectedly, and through it came a marvelous woman dressed in white with a blue mantle, who smiled at her and said, "Fear not." The Madonna remained during the night, and when asked to protect the city, replied that the people should remain joyful and wait in the cathedral before the altar of the Madonna della Lettera. Right? Following the tsunami along the entire coast, the earthquake on January 11th left 54,000 casualties. Messina itself suffered damage and flooding, but was spared the brunt of the disaster. Right? So, it's interesting that they called the altar the Madonna della Lettera, which is literally Our Lady of the Letter. So, local tradition holds that Our Lady honored the people of Messina by writing a letter to them, dated from Jerusalem in the year of her son, 42. Right? And so this image, we can call it the icon or whatever, is still in the high altar. So, unfortunately, it seems like it was destroyed during the Second World War in 1943. So the icon of Our Lady and this... the letter is still there, I'm sorry. The original was said to have been from St. Luke, the original image of Our Lady, but there's also this letter that they keep. And on the feast day of Our Lady of the Letter, June 3rd, it's displayed in a jeweled gold cover, usually kept in the Cathedral Museum. Right? The Madonna della Lettera is also represented by a completely gilded statue in the bell tower, and by a monument at the harbor entrance with a huge inscription, Vos et ipsam civitatem benedicimus, we bless you in the city, right? Which is taken from the letter's text. Now we jump over to the United States, where they celebrate Our Lady of Bethlehem in Carmel, or Carmel, I don't think it's probably how they say it, in California. So this is the statue of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which Saint Junipero Serra brought and placed on the temporary altar of the Mission San Carlos Borromeo on June 3rd, 1770. Right? It was relocated to Carmel in 1771. So we're told that the beautiful statue was actually only lent to Father Junipero Serra to accompany his mission in 1769. Right, so as victorious queen, her mission was not to gain new lands for Spain, but to conquer the souls of the many natives for Christ. Right? As soon as the first two missions in San Diego and Monterrey were established, the life-size statue was to be returned to Mexico City to its owner. Right? So Our Lady of Bethlehem was carefully boxed up and packed up in San Antonio, one of the three ships that set up in the San Antonio, one of the three ships that set out for San Diego. It was the only ship that arrived without mishap or sickness. One of the ships and all its men were lost at sea. Right? So the San Diego mission was successfully set up in 1796. Our Lady remained there a year while preparations were made for establishing a second mission. In 1770, Our Lady re-entered the San Antonio, remember that ship, and made the last leg of her journey on the Pacific to the second mission in Monterrey. Right? So on the first High Mass sung in California's second mission, which took place on Pentecost Sunday, June 3rd, 1770, Father Sierra picked up the Our Lady of Bethlehem statue once again to send it back to Mexico City. Right? The life-size statue was only on loan. Right? Here the comment is that, I think this was my commentator saying, it's like, I think I would have just sent out word that it was a successful journey and then not send back the image, but Father Sierra was a man of his word. The statue returned to Mexico City, and so happy that at the success of the Impossible Mission, as it was called, or Mission Impossible, he decided to send Our Lady of Bethlehem back to Father Sierra as a gift, right? And so then, hence, Our Lady of Bethlehem traveled twice from Mexico City to Alta California, right? The first time was on that first mission, and then the second time was to return permanently, right? Clearly, Our Lady of Bethlehem wanted to continue her work of conquering souls for heaven in Spain's new territory, because there is an impressive list of baptisms recorded in the mission archives, right? By the time of Father Serra's death in 1784, that is in just 15 years, the Franciscans had baptized 6,410 natives. And so that is what we are celebrating today, June 3rd, in the Marian world. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we continue to the second point of Meditation 76 on the burial and resurrection of Mary. Today's second point is entitled, The Incorruption of Her Immaculate Body. The victory of Mary over death demanded the incorruption of the sepulchre. This singular grace having been granted by God to many bodies of the saints, how could it be denied to her? So St. John Damascene, rightly, how could the corruption of death enter that body from which life had sprung? It had been said that Mary is the beginning of Christ. How then could he, who was already in heaven seated at the right hand of his Father, surrounded by the majesty of his divine glory, permit that that body, which was something of his own, should be invaded by the corruption of the sepulchre? That corruption of our body has its raison d'etre in sin. sin is the seed of corruption. Consequently, Mary, conceived without original sin and preserved from every stain, even from the shadow of sin, could not undergo the slightest corruption. How could the virginal purity of her immaculate body give way to that repulsive decay? Would not that body, which was the first to be vowed virginity to God, deserve heaven on earth as a very special reward? The Ark of the Covenant was made of incorruptible timber, and yet this was only a figure of the reality foreshadowed by it, the soul and the incorruptible body of Mary. Mary was the real Ark of the New Covenant. Beg of Our Lady to be given a share of this incorruptibility from sin, which is the one that matters. For today's reading from The Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we continue reading through Chapter 11, Heart of Mary, World of Wonders. And if you recall, St. John Eudes is going through history here. Again, he's offering a summary of the history of devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary in our Catholic tradition. And yesterday we made it up to the 8th century, so we'll start with that. In the 8th century, St. Germanus, Patriarch of Constantinople, stands out particularly for his writings and sermons in praise of Our Lady, having special recourse to her most merciful heart. From the writers of the 9th century, I have most frequently quoted a religious of the Augustine order, who sought to conceal his name by calling himself by the extraordinarily humble title, the Idiot. There's a note here that says St. John Eudes here follows the opinion of Salazas and other writers who assigned the works of the Idiot to the 9th century. But Theophilus Raymond, the editor of Jourdain's works, discovered that this learned writer was abbot of Celles and lived in about 1381. Okay, be that as it may. Nevertheless, God, who exalts the lowly, saw that he became known by his true name, Raymond Jourdain. His writings reveal exceptionally profound devotion to the Mother of God. I wish to mention a few other writers of subsequent centuries, particularly St. Anselm, Archbishop of Canterbury, whose love for the glorious Virgin Mary, his princess, shines particularly in his treatise on her excellence. I quote from his panegyric, which should suffice to warm even the coldest hearts, the following words. O woman admirably unique, and uniquely admirable, grant me the grace that your love may be constantly in my heart, and that you will bear me forever within your heart. In the 12th century, the great Saint Bernard, expounding the symbolism of the 12 stars and the crown of the woman envisioned in the Apocalypse, says that they represent the mysteries and virtues of her life, while the 12th star signifies the martyrdom of her heart. St. Bonaventure, Albert the Great, Thomas à Kempis, St. Thomas of Villanova, Arnauld of Bonival, all have written eloquently on the prerogatives and privileges of the incomparable Mary. The revelations and writings of St. Bridget, including the vision of the Admirable Mother of our Savior, have been approved by Holy Church.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.